Society has lied to you since the day you were born. They told you that if you are kind, polite, and always worried about what people think, you will be accepted. They told you that approval is the highest currency. But here's the brutal truth. This is psychological warfare. You have been programmed by a system, the Matrix, to remain soft, to remain obedient, and to remain dependent on the opinions of others. That's why you care so much what people think. That's why you fear rejection. That's why your self-worth rises and falls based on external validation. But here's what will shock you. Every time you let someone's opinion dictate your behavior, you give away power. You are no longer the commander of your life. You are a puppet moved by invisible strings. And the men who pull those strings, they don't respect you. They exploit you. Weak men live to be liked. Strong men live to be respected. And Machiavelli, centuries ago, revealed the forbidden principles of power that prove this truth. Niccolò Machiavelli once said, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." This wasn't just about politics, it was about psychology. When you live for approval, you are chained. But when you master fear, silence, and psychological control, you become untouchable. You stop being a victim. You start becoming a predator in a world of sheep. This video is your initiation into Machiavelli's armor for the mind. Over the next minutes, I will give you 8 ruthless principles that will strip away your weakness and forge psychological bulletproof armor. These principles will not make you nice. They will not make you popular. They will make you respected, feared, and unshakably strong. Once you see these truths, you cannot unsee them. Warning: the moment you internalize these laws, your old self dies. The boy who lived for likes is gone. The man who commands respect is born. The majority of men will click away. They cannot handle the dark reality. But if you stay, if you watch until the end, you will walk away with a mindset that is dangerous, ruthless, and unstoppable. This is not motivational fluff. This is Machiavellian psychology, raw, dark, and adapted for modern warfare. If you're ready, I want you to declare war on weakness right now. Write this in the comments. I refuse to be psychologically dominated. That is your first act of defiance. That is your first step into becoming bulletproof. Now let's begin. You've been told since childhood that fairness is the ultimate virtue. Play fair, treat everyone equally, and life will reward you. But here's the brutal truth. Fairness is not real. It's a psychological leash created to keep you compliant. Life has never been fair, power has never been fair, and the men who win are not the ones who play fair. They're the ones who understand that the game itself is rigged. Most men cling to fairness because it comforts them. It allows them to believe that if they sacrifice, if they stay patient, if they do the right thing, they'll eventually get what they deserve. But reality doesn't work like that. When you expect fairness, you expose yourself. You give others the advantage of exploiting your predictable behavior. And here's where it gets sinister. The world rewards those who take, not those who wait for balance. Psychologically, the belief in fairness is poison. It convinces you that life operates on rules of reciprocity when, in fact, it operates on rules of power. Once you internalize fairness as a standard, you hand control to others. They now get to decide whether you've been treated fairly or not. You become reactive, not strategic. And reactive men are always dominated. Machiavelli once said, "Men should be either caressed or annihilated." This means there is no middle ground, no illusion of fairness. In the real world, power bends reality to its will. Weak men cry out for fairness. Strong men create advantage and move forward ruthlessly. Think about it. At work, maybe you delivered results, believing effort would be rewarded. But the promotion went to the one who built influence, not the one who played fair. In relationships, maybe you gave loyalty and patience, expecting fairness would guarantee loyalty in return. But they chose someone else. This is where most men fail. They assume the universe owes them something. It doesn't. Strong men don't expect fairness. They engineer outcomes. They don't ask for justice. They command respect. When weak men cry, "That's not fair," strong men smirk, because they already know fairness was never on the battlefield to begin with. Here's the implementation. From this moment forward, eliminate fairness from your mindset. Assume the world is stacked against you. That shift makes you dangerous because it removes entitlement and forces you into strategy. You no longer beg, you calculate. You no longer wait, you move. That is the armor of a Machiavellian mind. Leave this declaration in the comments. I reject fairness, I choose power. Most men don't realize they are addicts. Not to drugs, not to alcohol, but to approval. Every action they take, every decision they make is secretly filtered through one question. Will people like me for this? That single weakness is why they remain invisible, powerless, and disposable. Approval seeking is psychological slavery. It chains your self-worth to the opinions of others, giving them control over your emotions, your confidence, and ultimately your destiny. And here's the Machiavellian truth. People respect you less the moment they sense you crave their approval. The harder you try to please, the weaker you appear. Think of the man who always says yes, the man who avoids confrontation, the man who sacrifices his own interests just to avoid being disliked. He believes he's buying loyalty and affection, but what he's really buying is contempt. Humans are wired to value what is scarce, and approval seeking makes your presence cheap. When you bend, you teach others that your boundaries can be broken. When you chase validation, you announce to the world that you are not a leader. You're a follower waiting for permission. Machiavelli himself warned that it is better to be feared than loved, because love is conditional, fragile, and easily withdrawn. Fear, however, commands respect even when emotions fade. This doesn't mean becoming cruel for no reason. It means cutting out the disease of needing others to define you. Psychologically, approval seeking is rooted in insecurity. But here's the brutal paradox. The more you reject approval, the more it comes to you. People are drawn to self-contained strength. They respect men who walk away without hesitation, men who act without needing applause, men who know exactly who they are without external confirmation. So how do you implement this? First, stop apologizing unnecessarily. Every sorry you spit out without meaning it is a declaration of weakness. Second, practice silence. The man who doesn't rush to fill the void with nervous chatter instantly radiates authority. Third, deny yourself the cheap dopamine of likes, comments, and approval in everyday life. Don't measure yourself by claps or compliments. Measure yourself by how little you need them. From this moment forward, understand this law. Approval is a leash, and only dogs wear leashes. If you want to be respected, feared, and remembered, cut the leash. Walk your path without asking anyone to clap for you. Leave this declaration in the comments. I reject approval, I choose respect. Here's what will shock you. Silence is one of the most dangerous weapons in psychological warfare. Weak men fear silence because it exposes their insecurity. Strong men master silence because it creates pressure, authority, and control. The moment you learn to weaponize silence, you step into a level of influence that approval seekers can never touch. Most men speak too much. They overshare, explain themselves endlessly, and give away their power with words. Why? Because they are terrified of how others will perceive them if they don't fill the air with constant chatter. But here's the brutal truth. Every unnecessary word dilutes your authority. Every time you explain yourself to be liked, you give away a piece of your dominance. Silence flips the dynamic. When you withhold your words, you force others to reveal themselves. People rush to fill the void, confessing, justifying, or even exposing weaknesses they never intended to show. Silence makes them uncomfortable, and in that discomfort, they surrender control. That's why Machiavelli said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does at last." This means decisive men do not waste energy on endless explanations. They act and let silence carry the weight. Think about negotiations. The weak man desperately talks, lowering his price, making concessions, seeking agreement. The strong man speaks once, then shuts up. The silence crushes the opponent until they break. Or think about arguments. The weak man raises his voice, begs to be heard. The strong man delivers one line and then goes quiet. The silence is deafening, because it radiates certainty. But the most sinister power of silence is its ability to create mystery. People fear what they cannot predict. If you are always talking, people know your every thought. If you stay silent, people wonder, what is he thinking? What is he planning? What does he know that I don't? Mystery is power. Silence makes you unpredictable, and unpredictability commands respect. To implement this, practice restraint. Before you speak, ask, is this statement strategic, or am I just trying to be liked? Cut out filler words. Don't explain when no explanation is required. In moments of pressure, slow down your speech and insert silence like a blade. The pause itself becomes dominance. Understand this law. Words are cheap. Silence is expensive. Weak men try to buy respect with words. Strong men earn respect with silence. When you master the pause, you master the room. Leave this declaration in the comments. I command with silence. Here's what most men never understand. Setbacks are not signs of weakness. They are weapons waiting to be sharpened. The weak man collapses when life punches him in the mouth. The strong man absorbs the pain, refines it, and turns it into unstoppable power. This is the brutal truth. Your struggles can either enslave you or forge you into a predator. The choice is yours. Weak men complain, whine, and play the victim when things go wrong. They look for sympathy, for someone to pat them on the back and tell them it's not their fault. But men who live this way remain powerless forever. Why? Because victimhood robs you of the one thing that creates dominance, responsibility. Without ownership, you are nothing but prey in a world of hunters. Strong men, on the other hand, treat every setback as psychological fuel. The betrayal, the rejection, the humiliation, they convert it into fire that drives them further. They understand what Machiavelli once said, never waste the opportunity offered by a good crisis. This means that moments of failure are not to be feared, but exploited. Every loss hides a lesson. Every humiliation hides leverage. Every defeat hides the seeds of victory. Think about the man who loses his job. The weak one sulks, blaming the economy, the system, his boss. He spirals downward. The strong one sees it as an opportunity to rebuild, to sharpen his skills, to strike back even harder. Or think about relationships. The weak man crumbles when rejected, begging for another chance. The strong man takes the rejection as fuel to level up, making himself so powerful that the world comes crawling back to him. Here's where it gets sinister. People are always watching how you respond to setbacks. If you collapse, you broadcast weakness. If you rise, you radiate strength. The moment others see that nothing can break you, you become untouchable. Your enemies fear you because they realize they cannot defeat a man who uses failure as fuel. Implementation is simple. The next time you face humiliation or defeat, stop asking, why me? Instead, ask, how can this make me stronger? Write down what the setback has exposed and then turn it into your next weapon. Every scar becomes armor. Every wound becomes proof of survival. Remember this, weak men are destroyed by setbacks, strong men are rebuilt by them. If you want to be psychologically bulletproof, you must see every obstacle as a gift wrapped in pain. Leave this declaration in the comments. I turn pain into power. Here's what's going to shock you. The moment you lose control of your emotions, you hand over your power. Most men don't realize this, but emotional outbursts are a public confession of weakness. Anger, jealousy, desperation, they are open doors for others to manipulate you. The brutal truth is this: men who cannot control their emotions are slaves to anyone who can trigger them. Weak men lash out when provoked. They argue, they shout, they beg, they cry. They wear their heart on their sleeve, thinking that honesty makes them authentic. But in reality, it makes them predictable. And predictability is the death of power. If someone knows exactly which button to push to make you react, you are their puppet. Strong men, however, master emotional discipline. They use silence where others use rage. They keep their face unreadable, their reactions invisible. They know what Machiavelli once said: a man who cannot control himself will be ruled by others. This means that your emotions are either your chains or your weapon. By mastering them, you make yourself untouchable. Picture this. You're insulted in public. The weak man takes the bait, explodes, and loses control. Everyone sees his weakness. The strong man stays calm, cold, and calculated. He does not react. He lets the silence suffocate his opponent. That silence becomes dominance. Or imagine negotiating. The weak man gets desperate, showing his need. The strong man stays composed, hiding his hand until the perfect moment to strike. That composure forces others to bend. Here's the sinister part. Emotional discipline doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you weaponize what you feel. Anger becomes fuel for strategy. Pain becomes fuel for growth. Desire becomes fuel for patience. Every emotion is energy, and energy can be controlled, redirected, and deployed like a blade. Implementation is ruthless. Never let anyone see your extremes. Practice the art of the stone face, calm under pressure, unreadable in conflict, detached in chaos. Remember this law. When they can't predict you, they can't control you. And when they can't control you, they fear you. Here's the contrast. Weak men are prisoners of their emotions. Strong men are generals commanding theirs. One is ruled, the other rules. Leave this declaration in the comments. My emotions serve me, I do not serve them. Here's what will blow your mind. Your deepest chains are invisible. They are not made of steel, but of approval. From the moment you were a child, you were programmed to crave validation. Parents' praise, teachers' approval, society's acceptance. And now, as a man, you are enslaved to the opinions of people who don't even matter. The brutal truth, the need for approval is the most dangerous addiction in the world. Weak men live for it. They change their words, their actions, even their beliefs just to be liked. They say yes when they want to say no. They compromise their standards to fit in. They are desperate to be seen as nice guys, but in the process, they erase their own identity. Approval has turned them into hollow shells. Strong men understand what Machiavelli once said. He who seeks to be loved will eventually be despised. This means that when you beg for approval, you lose respect. People sense desperation, and desperation kills authority. The man who doesn't need approval, however, is magnetic. His independence becomes power. His refusal to bend becomes dominance. Let me break this down. In every interaction, people are subconsciously testing you. They push boundaries, they withhold approval, they create pressure, just to see if you'll bend. The weak man crumbles. The strong man doesn't care. And because he doesn't care, he wins respect. Paradoxically, when you stop needing approval, you get more of it, because you've shifted from weakness to power. Here's a practical example. A woman tests you by questioning your decision. The weak man backtracks, explains, apologizes, tries to win her approval. The strong man stands firm, unshaken. His confidence forces her to respect him. Or at work, your boss challenges your opinion. The weak man folds. The strong man calmly defends his stance without flinching. Even if the boss disagrees, the respect grows. This is where most men fail. They want to be liked instead of feared and respected. But liking is cheap. Respect is rare. And respect only comes to men who are not slaves to approval. Implementation. Cut the cord today. Stop chasing validation. When you feel the urge to explain yourself, to prove yourself, to beg for approval, pause. Remind yourself, I need nothing from anyone. You are the fortress, not the beggar. Here's the contrast. Weak men are approval junkies. Strong men are approval killers. One bends, the other commands. Declare this in the comments. Approval is my prison. I choose freedom. Here's what's going to shock you. The more available you are, the less valuable you become. Society told you that being endlessly present, giving unlimited attention, and making yourself always accessible is what earns love and respect. But the brutal truth? Abundance kills value. Scarcity creates power. Weak men throw themselves at everyone, friends, women, bosses, strangers, desperate to be noticed. They answer every text instantly. They never say no. They are always on call. And what happens? Their time and presence lose all meaning. They become background noise. Strong men understand a darker law. The more you are seen, the more common you appear. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. This means that when you are scarce, when you are selective, people perceive you as rare, and rarity creates magnetic influence. When your presence is not guaranteed, your value skyrockets. Let me break this down for you. Humans are wired to chase what they cannot easily have. Scarcity triggers desire, respect, even fear. This is why diamonds, rare metals, and limited editions hold power, because they are rare. The same principle applies to your presence, your attention, and your energy. Here's a concrete example. The weak man floods a woman with messages, desperate to show interest. She ignores him because abundance destroys intrigue. The strong man replies when he chooses, keeps his attention selective, and suddenly she invests more. Or in business, the weak man attends every meeting, speaks endlessly, and his words carry no weight. The strong man speaks rarely, but when he does, people listen, because scarcity made his words valuable. But the most dangerous part is this. If you are too available, you are subconsciously signaling weakness. You are saying, my time is worthless. I have nothing better. And predators, whether in relationships, business, or power games, smell that weakness instantly. Implementation. Starting today, control your presence. Be selective with your time, your words, your responses. Make people wait. Make them wonder. Force them to earn your attention. This doesn't make you arrogant. It makes you powerful. Here's the contrast. Weak men are abundant. Strong men are scarce. One is ignored. The other is chased. Declare this in the comments. My scarcity is my power. Here's what will blow your mind. The loudest man in the room is almost always the weakest. The one who constantly explains, defends, or overjustifies himself is broadcasting insecurity. But the man who masters silence, he controls the entire battlefield. Most men believe that dominance means being the loudest, the most aggressive, the one always proving himself. But the brutal truth? Silence is far more terrifying. Silence forces others to fill the space, reveal their weaknesses, and expose their insecurities. In psychological warfare, silence is a weapon sharper than any blade. Machiavelli once said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." This means that wisdom, restraint, and timing crush impulsive noise. When you stay silent, you are not reacting, you are calculating. And in power games, the one who calculates always defeats the one who reacts. Let me break this down. Weak men fear silence because it makes them uncomfortable. They blurt out explanations, apologies, and excuses just to fill the void. Strong men use silence as a cage. They let others choke on their own words, giving away secrets, revealing desperation, and begging for validation. Here's a concrete example. In negotiations, the weak man talks endlessly, trying to persuade. He loses leverage with every word. The strong man makes his demand, then goes silent. The silence pressures the other side into speaking, compromising, or giving more than they intended. Or in personal life, the weak man argues nonstop to prove he's right. The strong man simply says his piece, then goes quiet, forcing the other to question themselves. But the most sinister truth is this: silence creates fear. People project their own insecurities into the empty space you leave. They assume you know more, that you're stronger, that you're in control. Silence makes them bow without you lifting a finger. Implementation. Starting today, stop explaining yourself. Speak less, listen more, and let silence do the heavy lifting. In conflict, resist the urge to react instantly. Hold the silence and watch how others crumble. Here's the contrast. Weak men scream for attention. Strong men command respect through silence. One is forgotten, the other is feared. Declare this in the comments. My silence speaks louder than weakness ever could. You began this video as one version of yourself, a man shaped by the expectations of others, conditioned by society to seek approval, to avoid conflict, to soften your edges so you would be liked. But now, you are not that man anymore. If you have listened to every principle in this video, if you have absorbed the Machiavellian truths hidden within these words, then you can feel it. Something inside you has shifted. You are not here to be liked. You are here to be respected. You now understand what most men never will, that power is not given, it is taken, that respect is not asked for, it is commanded, that the world does not reward the gentle, it bows to the unbreakable. And here's the brutal truth you must carry with you. Every single day that you hesitate, every day that you allow yourself to care what others think, every day you operate from fear instead of authority, you are surrendering power. And while you delay, someone else is acting. Someone more ruthless, more strategic, more disciplined is moving forward while you justify your inaction. This world does not wait for the hesitant. The man who hesitates becomes a servant. The man who acts becomes a ruler. If you take nothing else from this video, take this. Your mind is a fortress. No one enters without your permission. The opinions of others only control you if you allow access. The judgment of society only affects you if you internalize it. The expectations of the weak masses only shape you if you bow to them. You must now become psychologically untouchable. A man who moves with direction, not approval. A man who calculates instead of reacts. A man whose silence is more powerful than the noise of the world. From this point forward, you speak with purpose, or you don't speak at all. You give attention only where it serves your mission. You never defend yourself, never explain yourself, never chase validation. Your actions become your language. Your presence becomes your authority. Because the moment you no longer care what others think of you, you become unstoppable. Now, it's time to prove your transformation. Final CTAs. Like this video to declare that you are done being psychologically dominated. Share this video with someone who needs to wake up. Someone who is still trapped in the cage you just broke out of. Subscribe because this is only the beginning. The road to power, dominance, discipline, and influence is long, and I will guide you through every step. And finally, comment your declaration of power. My mind belongs to me. I am untouchable. Say it, write it, own it, because the world does not respect the polite, the agreeable, the hesitant, or the emotionally fragile. The world respects the man whose mind cannot be broken. And that man is now you. You are unstoppable.